It is September 3rd, 2025, episode 543, and today we have Andy and Brian, and I am Jimmy, and this is the Daily AI Show. Thank you for everyone for joining the live stream, and to all of you who are watching just a little later. If you haven't already, click the bell, the like, subscribe, and join the newsletter at thedailyAIshow.com. Okay, before we do our lightning round, I do want to bring up a bit of news from our friend and she leads AI. They are going to She Leads AI unites accomplished women to advance AI for global prosperity. And from October 11th to 14th in Salt Lake City, they're hosting their first ever in-person event, the Create Conference. If you care about AI and the future and are a woman, it's worth the effort to show up in person. If you care about diversity in AI decision-making, it's worth supporting Create with your sponsorship or marketing dollars. At Create, women leaders share what's actually happening with AI adoption on the personal level, across organizations, across industries. Not the stuff that you see on LinkedIn, but what's really going on. Experts in AI and law will show you how to protect your intellectual property, even inside your prompts. They'll also walk you through how to set up your AI projects with the intention of saving the world, because you just might. You'll learn how to monetize your AI expertise and how to pivot your personal brand into credible AI leadership. There's even a sound bath to calm the tech-fried brain. If you're building anything with AI, tools, teams, or reputation, you want to be at Create. And you get $100 off if you use the code DAIS100, DAIS100. And you can get your ticket at createconference2025.com. And we'll make sure to put this both in the chat and in the community later. All right. So let's move on to our lightning round. And Andy, why don't you start us off first? What is your quick lightning round story for this week?
Vibe Voice from Microsoft. So Microsoft came out of the woodwork with a state-of-the-art text-to-speech system that rivals what Google has developed within Notebook LM. And what it is about is multi-speaker conversational audio, such as podcasts. And you do that from text prompts, just like you do in Notebook LM. And it's scalable. It has speaker consistency and natural turn taking generatively. It uses a new next token diffusion framework coupled with a large language model to understand the textual context and dialogue flow. And the diffusion head generates high fidelity acoustic details. What's interesting about this is that typically within Notebook LM, and there's some announcements about Notebook LM that we'll cover later in the show, but you only have two speakers. Well, Vibe Voice can handle up to 4 distinct speakers. That goes beyond that 1 to 2 speaker limit that the prior sort of state-of-the-art models have shown.
Nice. All right. Brian, what do you got?
Anthropic. They raised another $13 billion in Series F. As we always say, now these numbers are just getting thrown around, billions and billions of dollars as if it's nothing. But they now have a $183 billion post-money valuation for all those who speak finance and understand all those terms. I'm always playing catch up in that area. What I find interesting about this, though, is in this article, which it's a press release from Anthropic, so you can go on their website and find it. But I like to see who's investing. I think that gives some indicators about the types of companies that feel like Anthropic is a solution they want to invest in. We've seen typical ones like BlackRock, and I think there was another one in here that I'm Insight Partners, which I've heard about before, as well as Goldman Sachs and others. But I always think that's really interesting. We have the Qatar Investment Authority in there. So for those that might care about where some of the investment money is coming from, you can certainly look into that. Also, though, what I think is just as a quick side on this is that when Anthropic's writing this, you really can get a sense of the type of business that they are going after. They're quick to point out that Claude Code it's already taken off and it already generates over 500 million in run rate revenue, with usage growing more than 10x in just 3 months. Claude Code is a really, really big deal for Anthropic, and obviously there's a lot of companies that feel the same way. Now, me, if I was personally investing in Anthropic, one of the things I would be concerned with is that when I've read previous reports, a lot of Claude's money or Anthropic's money can be tied up into tools like Cursor or Bolt and others that are like using those tools as part of their tool, right? They're using Claude Code. And you can imagine if any one of those big players like a Cursor or something pivoted and no longer supported Claude and the code and went to OpenAI because of a coup or something like that, because they threw more money at it, you could see how that might move the needle significantly if you're investing. Now, Claude Code you don't need to use inside of these tools, so perhaps it's not as much of, or it's a bigger moat than I'm thinking it is. I'm certainly no investor, but anyway, 13 billion, which, like I said, we just throw these numbers around. 183 billion post money. What do they call it? Wanting to post money valuation. And then what was the other number I wanted to give you really quick? Anthropic's run rate revenue has grown to approximately 1 billion that was early. And by August 2025, just 8 months later, our run rate revenue reached over 5 billion, making Anthropic one of the fastest growing technology companies in history. So really interesting. Go read that if you're interested in what Anthropic's doing. They lay it out. Listen, I mean, again, I give all credit to Rachel Woods on this. She called this out 2 years ago and said, I believe Anthropic is going enterprise. That's where they're going to focus. And that really does appear to be where they're putting a lot of their eggs, as well as what they're doing in Claude Code and being a trusted coding tool for developers. And that goes a long way as well. If people trust the tool, that certainly is going to help the company stick around. So interesting. Just wanted to throw that out there as a sort of a big deal. Anthropic's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
And let me just add that they raised most recently in March of this year at a third of that valuation. So they've tripled in valuation and 5x'd their annual revenue run rate. So, it doesn't look like the valuation climb is going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah. Claude Code's a big deal. I have not dug into that as much. I know Carl has talked about it. And a couple times now, Carl has been like, have you tried that solution in Claude Code yet? And I'm like, no, I haven't. But it's sort of inevitable that that's going to be more something that I lean on a little bit more and more. In fact, I haven't looked at it, but I know Carl even shared a really good YouTube video that maybe we can share in our community where he was saying, hey, I think this is a great video. If you're just trying to learn how to use Claude Code, then maybe we can share that resource as well if I can find it before the end of the show. So yeah, cool stuff.
All right. And for my lightning round story, OpenAI acquires StatSig, which is essentially a experimentation platform. So A/B testing, feature flagging, real-time decision, making those kinds of things. And the CEO will be joining them as their head of applications, as well as all of the StatSig employees will now becoming OpenAI employees. So it's a true consumption of an entire organization. We've been seeing a lot of the acqui-hire kind of moves in the AI space recently. So this will be an interesting aspect or additional tools as part of OpenAI's overall plan and approach to how they want to do B2C and other aspects of their entire business plan. So we'll see what comes out of that. It was a little quiet release. I didn't see it like blasted all over the place, but this might be a key component that they needed to add to their toolbox. All right. So now today's stories of burning passion.
I got one.
All right, go for it.
Because it is kind of a burning passion. I just started playing with this morning when I saw the news come out, and I am already somewhat addicted to this. So that tells you that's a good indicator of a good AI tool, right? It solves a problem. Okay, this goes to Amazon and sort of Rufus. which for those that know, we've talked about it a little bit. Rufus is on you probably have it on your Amazon app and you just never really paid attention maybe. But Rufus is like sort of like the helper, the chat helper bot on Amazon. But what they did, well, they say they just rolled this out. I'm looking at the article for it, is they added this Lens AI. And let me just show you what the Lens AI does. It's probably what it sounds like. You can go onto the app, and towards the very top in your search bar, you don't probably be able to see it so much, but in your search bar, there's a lot of reflection there. Sorry, guys. There's a little camera with a little, almost like Google's on there, right? And if you hit that, that was going to look weird, but basically gives you one of these guys, right? It gives you your camera turn on. So now if I take this and then I take any object that I'm curious about, my Georgia Bulldogs cup that I love very much, and I'm just going to go ahead and, oh wait, it says, I must have hit something. 1 second, because it said scan barcode. I must have hit something else. Here we go. I'm just going to take a quick photo. Boom. Takes like 2 seconds. And then it immediately brings up on Amazon all the best top search results for whatever I took a picture of. Now, here's why this is cool. And I'm not saying other people don't already have that. Maybe Walmart already has this. I mean, certainly the idea of snapping photos of things in your house and getting search results. Google has that too. But here's the thing. We know Amazon is like, I assume, unless Walmart's bigger, their online shopping total inventory is probably second to very few, right? If it's not the largest. I don't know if Alibaba is bigger. I don't know. It doesn't matter. That's the main tool that I use is going to be Amazon. I don't really mess around with Walmart. I hear it's similar. Okay. But okay, so like stuff like the cup. So for the instance, for the cup, I really love this design. I love whoever the artist is that they got to do this. It just reminds me of my old school UGA things. This was actually bought at Buc-ee's. My daughter bought it for me for Christmas last year. I have this cup. You guys have probably seen me drink out of it. Well, I could look up the name of who made this, but what's easier than me just going, I wonder if they make other types of things with this artist design on it, because that's what I really like. And so do I need a Stanley cup? Or I don't really need that kind of stuff. But like, if I want to see what else they make, that's a really easy way to do it. Another way I don't think people are thinking about it. You have stuff in your house that breaks that you don't honestly know maybe what it does. It could be something as simple as a hinge or something broke on your cabinet doors or whatever. And Amazon has these things. They have all sorts of knickknacks and gizmos and what is it from our Little Mermaid. I know I said that wrong. Whose is and what's its galore. There you go. That's what Amazon has. So those things are around your house, and now just being able to have, I mean, it's kind of genius by Amazon, which is like, let us find it for you, and then where does that bring you? Immediately you're in Amazon, and it's going to give you so many things. So I literally walked around my house this morning taking pictures of stuffed animals. I took pictures, and if it doesn't have like that identified stuffed animal that's sitting on our couch of this bunny, it just shows me other stuffed animal bunnies, right? But when it did have the exact thing, I found it, I mean, I probably used it 20 times in 5 minutes this morning, and it was accurate every single time within seconds. So that's my story about burning fiery passion. What is it? Burning fire and burning and passion, Jimmy. Because this is a tool that I actually can see myself using. There's so many things that you're like, what does this remote go to? Like, why do I have this remote? It's sitting in a drawer and I just found it. Like, what? It's not. I know it goes to my fan. I'm just saying, like, stuff like this happens all the time. So now I can just take a picture of this remote. It's going to tell me the type of fan that it most likely goes to. That's super helpful. I'm all for that. So anyway, I think it's super cool, and I'm going to be using it a lot.
Very good, very good strategy for Amazon. I don't think it's going to, be limited to the home. I think already sometimes if I'm like in Best Buy or something, and I am looking at something there, I've got lots of information about the product. I want to know what's the best price online for it. Mm-hmm. Now I'd be inclined, instead of having to stand there and type into something, I'm just going to take a picture of it, and Amazon will tell me what the best price on Amazon is, which is typically about as low as you can go. So,
I mean, look, I've been in Lowe's. I can't remember what it was. It was not that long ago. Oh, it was some simple brackets. Here was my use case, right? That's exactly what you're right. You're right about this, Andy. But now this makes it even easier. So I wanted to put up a simple shelf in my laundry because, you know, when they build the new homes, they put like your Wi-Fi and all your router and all that in a box in your laundry room, typically, right? That's where all the wires wire in from the outside from the street. And it was just running hot and I didn't really want it in there. And I said, I just want to move it out because it's going to give more, you know, I'm always thinking about Jimmy and getting a good, strong signal in the house for this show. And so I just wanted to move it outside, a simple shelf. And I mean, Lowe's is across the street from me. I could walk to Lowe's from my house. And I went in there, it was like $30. I'm like, I'm not paying $30 for a simple white shelf that I don't care if it sees the light of day. I just need it. And I kind of fumbled around and found one on Amazon. Now I'm just going to take a picture in Lowe's of it in my hand. And it's going to say, we got a $5 version of that because it's a simple white shelf and that's all you need. And I was like, done. And it'll be here tomorrow. And that was the end of that. Sorry, Lowe's, you didn't have what I needed. And Amazon said it could bring it to me tomorrow. And that was perfectly okay. So I will be taking a lot of photos of a lot of things and be like, I wonder if Amazon has this. So, hey, build AI tools that solve problems. That's all I'm saying. This solves a problem. This is a pain point and they solved it. Hats off to Amazon for that. Nice. Last thing. You can add words to the picture. Not on the picture, but in the search bar brings in the picture. And then let's say you need some more descriptive words. I thought that was really smart from the Rufus side of things. It's just not the image. Sometimes you want to say the image, but I want this in white. And you can do that. So it's kind of like Nano Banana, right? Like you can give the image and then Gemini and say, hey, like this is the shift I want. I already have this in white. I need it in black, whatever, right? Tablecloths, whatever it might be. And so I like that Rufus gave you the option to add a little bit more to it. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm sure I'll be using it as well. As Amazon's my go-to. It's kind of amazing. I do want to see them build out their grocery side of things though, because then they might be a one-stop shop and they'll take over the world. Okay, well, we'll leave that as there. Andy, what is your story of burning fiery passion?
Well, I don't really have that deep of fire burning about this one, but this is the one that piques my interest most. So this is a peak story, and you alluded to it in your flowery entree, and it's about Google dodging the Chrome breakup bullet and giving the decision to allow Google to keep Chrome. Remember, just a couple of weeks ago, Perplexity made a bid to say, okay, if you're going to have to divest Chrome, we'll buy it. And because what is Perplexity if not the challenger to Google's search supremacy? And so the AI search world is in competition with Google as search. And so they're playing in this big high stakes game. Well, the judge in the antitrust case against Google said, well, you don't have to give up Chrome, but what you have to do is you have to provide a snapshot to any search competitor of all of your search index. Like basically, you've got to open your doors and let them in. And so Perplexity now and OpenAI search and anybody else can get a snapshot. They can't get an ongoing updated crawl of everything that they have in their index, but they can get a starting point that is as exhaustive as Google has developed through many now decades of their development of crawler adapters and the sort of digesting of this enormous volume of data that they collect. Okay, so what does this mean for the companies like Perplexity? It means, their value is now, in a way secure in that, they have, now they can compete with Google, not on the quality of not limited to the quality of their more limited crawl, but now on the quality of their user experience design. And so Google's, AI overview and their integration of AI into their search is now in direct competition with Perplexity and OpenAI's AI search. But now the playing field has been leveled pretty substantially that way. And I think that's just an amazing development, and I'm glad that Chrome will continue to be Google's toy, and they have a way to leverage all of the amazing things that DeepMind and Google is continuing to do, rather than having to give it over to a competitor.
Right, right. Yeah, it's not as catastrophic, I guess, of a force on them, but it is taking out one of the table legs. That's the main
Yeah.
meat of what makes it valuable. So, yeah, we'll see how that plays out. I would love to see a dramatization of what that first information request is. It's like, give me your data. Like, but no, and it's just this tug of war. It's like, okay, fine, you have to have it, but I'll leave that there. Now, now if we're going to talk about stories of fiery passion, no one is going to not guess that mine is in science.
Science?
Exactly. And I did mention it in the intro, but Caltech is blowing my mind with this next major step that they've done. Now, before I get started, I want everyone to take a second and think, how much quantum computing news have we heard within the last 6 months? Like, ever since Microsoft announced their Majorana 1 chip, it's just been consistent banger after banger of progression in quantum computing, where up until that point, it was pretty much silent. Now, I'll admit it's a niche subject. You're not going to hear a lot about it. It's kind of sci-fi, like it's like, oh yeah, quantum computing. Yeah, that'll be great when we see it in 100 years or whatever. But once Microsoft made that major announcement, it's been nothing nonstop. Like each month, at least one story about quantum computing. And here is the latest one. All right, Caltech, some of our favorite research universities, has developed a method of increasing the quantum memory by 30x, right? And the way they do this is through tuning forks. It's essentially a device that functions exactly like a tuning fork. They transfer the qubit memory into sound vibration. And because of that decaying rate or whatnot, they're able to keep those vibrations for 30 times longer before they transfer it back. This is early stuff. Of course, there's some caveats and other hurdles they have to jump over. But what this shows that can be done is we can store those quantum memory. All right. So think of it like cache on your computer, right? That cache that's on the chip helps take the calculations and store them, what's most needed for future calculations, right? Future determinations. It's the same thing with quantum memories. So quantum memory will allow you to cache the superpositions, right? So that you can then go back and use them as part of your calculations. Now, this is huge because everything in quantum computing in that quantum realm is instantaneously. It lasts for but a moment, right? And you're trying to generate more and more qubits that have less errors, so that you can determine, of all the variations in the universe, why they Doctor Strange it, all of those variations to get you the answer, the answer that's going to be most applicable to you. By adding a quantum memory cache through these tuning forks, they can do that faster and more often, and use more of the possibilities to get your answer. So huge move. There is some hurdles still, like I said. The transfer of the data to and from the tuning fork device, the vibrational device, that's where the slowdown is. And so if they want to see bigger steps from that and make it far more viable, that transfer gate or whatnot will need to be improved as well. But huge things in the practicality of quantum computing. This is probably one of those stories where before I would think, okay, we'll have a quantum computer in everybody's hands, by 2050. This to me may be 2040. So
yeah,
so we'll see.
it's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I love that there's just people out there in Caltech and around the world who are like, what if we use sound waves for memory?
It's
like,
hey, what's the logic jump, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure what it is all the research is, okay, we're going to use electromagnetic, storage devices and things like that, magnetic memory and things like that to store it. And then someone's like, nah, man, that no one can crack that. Let's try something else. What's another energy method?
Yeah.
And then someone just
cool.
comes up with, I don't know, maybe a musician got involved or something.
Maybe.
It's like, oh yeah, how about some music theory? Well, we've already connected math to music and vice versa,
I have a bit of a weave. I'll take your creativity, Jimmy, and I'll add in a dash of Andy's story before you, because you did mention Perplexity, but you were talking about the Google Chrome and stuff. Because I did see this article on Variety. I was going to say Vanity, but it's actually Variety, which I think it's just online now. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's from one of my wife's favorite actresses, and certainly talented Reese Witherspoon, who is probably known just as much for her producing and production house and what she does in terms of creating other content that she's not necessarily in. She's sort of a powerhouse when it comes to that. Among being an Oscar winner and stuff. She's obviously very accomplished. And what caught my eye, obviously, is what's in the title here. It says, women need to be involved in AI because it's the future of filmmaking. You can lament it all you want, but the change is here. And so she goes on to talk about some of the tools she uses. One of those is Perplexity. And she's like, I use it all the time during my house. She actually mentions another one. She was using the Perplexity and an AI agent called Vetted AI, which I had not heard of. So I wanted to bring that up. And then there was a third one on here as well, outside of Perplexity. Simple AI is an AI assistant that can be really helpful for anyone out there who doesn't want to have to make a doctor's appointment because you don't want to sit on hold and deal with problems of navigating hospital systems. It's an incredible tool to save time. I haven't heard of that one either, actually, but I have heard of tools that will do the appointment setting for you and stuff, which is obviously a huge time saver. The other thing I wanted to bring into this story, though, is not only two things here. First and foremost, I love that Reese Witherspoon is advocating and saying not only is AI here, but women need to be part of this sea change. Women need to be part of this transition. And I agree with her wholeheartedly, because what we often see in other industries is, whether it be male dominated, is a lot of, oh, it's okay. It's not anything we have to worry about right now. AI is really not going to impact the film industry, and they downplay it. Meanwhile, these are the same people a lot of times that are making the laws, the rules, and everything else that people have to abide by down the road. So I love that she's advocating and calling out and saying, no, women need to be part of the decision-making process as early as possible, because it's obviously going to affect the entire industry. So that part I love. I love seeing that she's doing that and she's being an advocate for it. Kudos to her for that. And then at the bottom here, they just added a little extra section to it, talking about current people that are famous that are maybe pro or maybe not so pro AI. So they talk about how James Cameron, for instance, says he's seeing how AI might be able to cut the cost of blockbusters in half. Others refuse to engage with it, such as Guillermo del Toro, who was adamant about no AI being used in the production of Frankenstein. I didn't know he was making a Frankenstein, but sure. It says, one thing most people agree upon is AI cannot replace creative jobs. Cameron said in a viral interview with CTV News in 2023, and that's key. That's 2 years ago that they're pulling this quote from. He doubted AI could ever come up with a, quote, good story that could replace screenwriters, for instance. According to Cameron, again, from 2 years ago, I'd be curious to hear what his update is. I just don't personally believe that a disembodied mind that's just regurgitating what other embodied minds have said about the life they've had, about love, about lying, about fear, about morality. And just to put it all together in a word salad and then regurgitate it, I don't believe there's ever going to have something that's going to move an audience. You have to be human to write it. I don't know anyone that's ever thinking about having AI write a screenplay. I'd just be curious. I mean, maybe that's exactly how he feels today in 2025, but I fully disagree with that. I think that is a swing and a miss from Cameron, who is, obviously Titanic and all the movies, Avatar, that he's still, with tons of CG in it and stuff like that. And he's forward thinking when it comes to technology. So I'm not surprised to hear that he's thinking about how AI can help with the budget side of it, reshoots and special shoots and things that freaking Nano Banana can seem to do today. Like you can see how there might be some higher version, high quality, whatever version of that for filmmaking. But the idea that AI, whether you believe today is the case or whether it will be in the future, be able to write net new stories that move an audience that are completely and feel very creative and unique, 100%. Just like everybody else that's, every other person that's an artist or whatever. And they have all these different experiences and different ways that people have influenced them. And whether it's a musician or whatever, and they say, oh, well, I was really influenced by such and such. And that's how I wrote this song. And now, Pearl Jam's really based on blah, 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 right? All these bands that talk about this. These are my influences growing up. My dad used to play, Count Basie in the house. And that rhythm really got me. And you're like, in Pearl Jam? And you're like, all right, yeah, it's a word. It's a salad, right? And I'm like, yeah, AI, maybe today you feel like it can't do that. You feel like it misses the mark on the creativity side, but this is a short-term problem. And so two totally different things here. One, really, really proud and love seeing what Reese Witherspoon is doing. And I hope she continues to do it. And obviously, like we talked about with Anne this morning, being a huge part of She Leads AI, or running She Leads AI, making sure that women are part of the AI movement. Phenomenal. But also this second part, sort of a side story with this idea that AI won't have an impact in creative story writing and that audiences wouldn't buy that. I'm like, no, I think we already see that that's possible, because you could be moved by an 8-second TikTok that's fully AI generated. So to say audiences won't be moved by, I think is really short-sighted.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's probably a lot of, I don't want it to be this way, as opposed to it's not possible.
Right.
I think creatively, it behooves an artist or creative, but pretty much anybody, because everyone is creative. But I think it behooves creativity and those who are creative to think of things as not impossible, right? If you're imagining, especially if you're into fiction and narrative fiction and creating something from a blank canvas, or or a performance piece or whatnot, that doesn't exist, and then you create it. You come out of something from nothing. So that means anything and everything is possible. To the degree and the likelihood, that's probably different, but I think the mindset is important. It's like, sure, an AI may eventually be a better writer than someone today who's writing, or who's only started to learn how to write, or just got a few years under the belt, that kind of thing.
Well,
that's certainly possible. I think the denial of if a possibility of something is where the problem is. And it's just a matter of, well, how do we adapt? Is it going to be a problem? Is that where the root of this, no, I don't ever, that kind of position, the root seems to be, well, that's a threat. Okay, well, why do you feel that it's a threat?
Sure.
Okay, well, what needs to change to make it not a threat? Those kinds of things. Okay. I've got a few OpenAI stories, unless Andy, you've got something else that you want to touch upon real quick.
Yeah, I have a quickie.
Okay.
So, as you know, there is now, this is on the subject of Nvidia, by the way, and what's happened in the wake of their earnings announcement for the second quarter. And there has been a pullback in Nvidia stock value, not enormous. It's around 6% from its high. It's off, but Alibaba, the very large conglomerate AI company in China, has unveiled a domestically manufactured, meaning it's not being built by TSMC, it's actually being built in China, AI inference chip. And it's in testing, but that this is important because what's really happened politically is the restrictions on use of Nvidia chips by China, the advanced chips, have pushed China to develop their own supply chain, basically for AI compute. And there's now, in effect, an embargo on well, I guess embargo is the other direction, but there's a real restriction on using Nvidia chips in China, and this is encouraging companies like Alibaba to make the large investments, probably supported by the government, in chip design and manufacturing. And that's partly why I think Nvidia pulled back this 6%. To put numbers to it, early in the year, I think just not that long ago, there was a major pullback and Nvidia dropped down to the under $100 per share level, which was still a valuation in the 3 trillion range. But that's how far down it went. It was at a high just about 6 days ago at 183, and today it's around 170, and it's kind of floating there at 170. It could go back down lower from there, in large part, I think, because there's just everybody in the world, Google to OpenAI, everybody has their own designs on building chips. TSMC, the largest manufacturer, the fabrication of those chips is going to be the beneficiary of all these new developers and designers coming forward and saying, hey, we want our chip built so that we don't have to depend on Nvidia. So there is a lot of pressure. And nonetheless, Nvidia is deeply, deeply entrenched in the AI world and in those pipelines, and has enormous, like their second quarter results were 56% higher revenues than the prior year quarter. Like they're still growing dramatically, and that on the backs of all of the demand for AI compute.
Yeah, and they're no slouch in all the aspects of hardware-based AI development either.
And they have software too, like
exactly.
The Mamba
Mhm.
state space model combination with transformers. That their Nematron Nano is really at the forefront of that new architecture for AI.
Yeah. And even things in like the data center tech specifically, like developing the networking hardware that can allow for that full transfer of, teraflops of data or
Memory
terabytes of data
bandwidth is
and
really
stuff like that.
important in AI
Yeah.
inference.
I did want to weave off of Nvidia a little bit about their new Jetson Thor AI compute device. Now, we've mentioned it off and on a little bit in passing, I think, but some of the big advancements that Thor is supposed to do is they want it to be the brain of robotics, right? Embodied AI. But I think the big takeaway from a hardware perspective is they're able to do this with 130 watts of power. That's less than a lot of major deployments of chip architecture and things like that. Power generation and usage is a huge concern. So it's a very efficient chip. Not as efficient as maybe a desktop CPU, but a desktop CPU isn't doing over 2,000 T-flops or teraflops of compute, right? So this is a tiny computer that does over 2,000. And remember, the first H100s and stuff like that were doing like 2,500. So when that first came out, and those were data center CPUs, that was 2,500 teraflops. This is 2,000 teraflops, and it's only doing it for 130 watts. So this is why they're promoting it as, oh, this will be the brain of your robot, because this can fit on your robot with the power pack that's reasonable, and your robots don't, get bogged down in just the sheer weight of running the battery and this CPU. So I'd like to see if it can be used for anything other than what their primary purpose is. I know that there's a couple different versions of the Jetson, one for development, like a desktop that's like supposed to go for like $3,000 and stuff like that. So we'll see how. I always like to see what the unorthodox use of a hardware they developed for a specific use case, and then they find out that it's just so much better at doing it other things. Just take the Nvidia GPU. That was made for playing video games. It still does. They have their video game line, but now they've just taken that architecture and technology and just applied it for the general idea of compute. And that's now in the lexicon of talking about how performative or productive any piece of hardware or CPU is nowadays. So,
you know what I like about that really quick? It's not really a news story, but Jimmy, as both of you all talking about that, it makes me think about people my age. So like maybe mid late 40s, I don't know, somewhere in my age, was born around the same time I was in 78 or maybe early 80s, who took an interest like I did as a kid and, built a PC and was doing bulletin board systems with my friends and doing dial-ups and all this stuff. It just interested me back then as AI does now. And there was people who had kids or kids who had adult parents, and they were like, video games will rot your brain, video games will do this and that. And I love that these are some of the people who were just so into video games and understood the architecture and the hardware, not just the video game play, which also is having huge impacts in things like Sims and drone aerial and all that stuff. It's hugely impactful. But also, the kids from the 80s and probably early 90s too, who were just into this stuff and their parents didn't get it or whatever. And they're like, see, it makes a big difference, because now these same, why do I have to have the best NVIDIA, RAM and stuff like that and video card? This is the building blocks for
what
with AI.
If I've learned anything growing up, and especially when it comes to convincing the authorities, right? Yeah. People in charge, it's about the narrative, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're trying to pitch your new project to your company or to selling on another company, or you're just 12-year-old kid who wants the latest, gaming console or a new PC, it's all about the narrative, kids. So learn how to tell a good story.
Yeah.
Make sure that they understand the long-term benefits for doing this for you,
right?
And sell them. I think there should be. I can just imagine like one of my nephews just going up to his dad and his mom is like, okay, so in the future, I'm going to be designing video games, so I need this hardware now, and to play every single type of video game. So I understand the landscape of video gaming and the overall industry. It's like, okay.
Throw a couple AI words in there. I'm also
learning.
I also want to learn AI, and I need this better video card in order to do the cool things. Say nano banana. Throw it out there. Throw a word. See how the parents react. Maybe you'll overwhelm them with terms in AI, and they'll just go, okay.
Yeah.
It seems like they want to learn.
But before we move on, I want to just make a point about Jetson Thor and robotics and how important that market space is, with a quote from Elon Musk that Tesla's value will be 80% Optimus and 20% other, including cars. Okay. So to put it in perspective, right? That's 4-to-1, 4-to-1, all Optimus robots. Now, I don't think Tesla's planning to use Jetson Thor in the Optimus robot. I don't know. That's an interesting question, is which of the major players out there are planning to use the Nvidia platform as the power behind their humanoid robots?
Okay. I have a couple of OpenAI news and a Microsoft story to go over. But before I get into all of that, the OpenAI news, I think it's been a couple of interesting things that they've all released pretty much back to back. Number one was when they had their live stream talking about GPT Real-Time. Now, real-time voice has been around for a little while, but this latest version they demoed, and while it was just a very nonchalant, simple demo, it is a core technology that we'll see more and more of. So whenever you've had a voice agent, or you've had that interactivity in your apps, I imagine this will be the new version that you'll get. Much smoother conversations, interruptible, but provide reasoning, compute and thinking on your issue, as well as having that voice communication. Now, I would love to see that happen in the voice component on on ChatGPT, because I hate the fact that I can't have it go do things that the other models can do while I'm talking to it. It's like, oh no, I can't bring up that file. But you're in a project. It's like, yeah, no, I don't have access to that. So I don't know. Maybe it'll get rolled out or whatnot. But the big thing is this is API access. So this is another tool in the tool set to build out your applications. And it's significantly cheaper than what it was before. And we always like that trend. It just means we get to use it more often, right? And the other one, which was a quiet release, was they put in parental controls and routing to, one, expand on the interventions to help more people in crisis. Two, making it even easier to reach emergency services and get help from experts. Three, enabling connections to trusted contacts. And four, strengthening protections for teens. And while I'm sure the motivations have been sparked because of recent events happening and around ChatGPT and OpenAI, but it's good to see that there is active participation in, potentially finding a solve, or at least mitigating those kinds of situations. Do I think this is a fix? Probably not. Things move too quickly and require too much oversight where the balance is. But it's good to see that there is discussion and movement in this space. I'm sure there needs to be a much larger analysis of why we get to this point in the first place. But I do like seeing OpenAI taking an active role towards that. And finally, in the news of AI and government, Microsoft has given a discount for its services to the US government. Apparently, they will save something like $3 billion. And we know that government uses Microsoft a lot as part of their software infrastructure, and even things just like Office and Microsoft 365 and things like that. And so giving this discount, I think, is a move to because all of the major software companies / AI companies are entering into some sort of agreement with the government for the U.S. And so I think this is their move to that. But the key component is they all get Copilot for free. So get those RFPs spun up, everybody, because you're gonna want to learn how to deploy and integrate Copilot. Not our favorite, but when you have that large of an organization and they're already that integrated into the system, and it's the government, they're a monolith, so it's very difficult for them to change paths or gears or directions. we can try and help them figure out the best way of using what they have. Okay, so that's what I got. Does anybody else have any stories that they want to cover for this week?
Yeah, I alluded to it earlier, but I want to tell you about some additional features that are forthcoming in Notebook LM.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So Google folks have a really powerful product there. we did a whole show on it earlier, right? So look back in the archives there and look just recently, like within the last 7 days, right? Anyway, now on top of everything we talked about and foretold, as it develops into this incredibly facile platform for self-education or joint sort of shared research and presentation of complex subjects, especially using the voice capability that's in their podcast or audio overview mode. So they're continuing to move forward with that product, and so they're launching 3 new modes for audio overview. One is called Brief, which is a single voice, just developing a rapid summary and telling you about that. They already have a product brief or a study brief, I think it's called, there's study guide right now in the studio. And then there's another mode that will produce a simple summary like this. Well, this will add an audio version of that. And right now, the only way you can get an audio overview is their mode called Deep Dive, which is 2 podcast voices, and they're the same voices, which is kind of annoying. So you instantly recognize them as the 2 podcasters of the Notebook LM. It's getting a little tiresome. So they've added the brief. There's 2 other things, but they're also adding support for more voices, so you can select the voices. So there's the brief, the critique, which shifts the focus to feedback on that thing that you've either produced yourself or you've collected and developed a note that is a summary of the thing. And now you invoke the critique audio mode, and it'll have 2 AI hosts, and they'll be analyzing that content with a critical eye, right? And offer specific actionable suggestions. And then finally, there's debate. Debate brings a conversational dynamic with 2 hosts again, and showing the different sides of a topic. So the one takes one side and the one takes the other. If you've used Notebook LM's deep dive mode, that's the audio overview today, you notice that the 2 co-hosts are basically collaborating, and they're reinforcing each other's points and asking questions to advance that subject. Well, debate's going to take a much more, Jane, you ignorant, that's a lame SNL reference there. Okay. So Notebook LM coming on. And earlier in the show, I mentioned that Vibe Voice from Microsoft is now more complex and able to do multiple voices. And you can imagine all the mixes and matches that they can produce. You got to believe that, Google's team that's behind Notebook LM is not going to let that sit. So very soon they'll be able to go beyond 2 voices.
It's very cool.
Super exciting. I'm waiting for the fact that when they'll add, will allow you to add your own voices. That's kind of what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, like inputs in 11 labs or something like that.
Yeah, just do a collab.
Yeah, well, that's true. I know we're on time here, but the last one I was just going to mention, but I'll just say it really quickly, is new fully open, transparent large language model launches, and it's Swiss. We haven't heard of the Swiss making a language model, but they have truly made this open, not just some parts and pieces. They've literally made the entire development process open, including its architecture, model weights, and training data and recipes, all accessible to everyone around the world. The name of the model is Apparatus, which is Latin for open. Let's see. Apparatus allows researchers, professionals, and enthusiasts to build on the model and adapt it to their specific needs, as well as to inspect any part of the training process. This distinguishes Apparatus from models that make only selected components accessible. They have an upcoming event where a whole bunch of people, for lack of a better term, just say it quickly, are going to be working with it. And that's where they feel like, developers and such, and that's where they feel like they're going to learn more about what the potential of this model is. Like, where does it rank? Is it as good or different, blah, blah, blah. That's less the point, I think, to the story. More to the point is that we're seeing another large language model be fully open, which is phenomenal. So that allows lots of people to dig in there and train and learn on their own. And, as we've seen many, many times, once there's like one large language model that's open, it gives the ability to a lot of people to understand and build off of that, or do hyper localization and training for it and stuff. So very, very cool. Cool of the Swiss to do that. So just wanted to bring that up really quick.
Yeah. And hopefully, I don't know if they're in LM Arena, but
I don't know. They didn't mention that, at least. So, because I was looking for that too. I was like, I was waiting, honestly, you get so used to reading these articles. I was waiting for it benchmarks this way or that way. And honestly, it was refreshing that the article did not mention that. This was from betanews.com. Because honestly, who cares? They built this huge.
It does what you need it to do.
I mean, look, if it's only as good as GPT 3.5 or something like that, we would want to know that maybe.
Sure.
But it's more that it's fully open end to end, and for the people who care that and need to know that, and not just see some things with a flashlight and some things in the dark. I could see how this could be a really big deal for developers and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Previously didn't have access.
Full open major AI model. Yeah. I think that'll be a good basis for open source developers to build off of.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So we'll wrap up for today. I want to thank all you folks in chat for joining us, our viewers, subscribers. Please continue the discussion on our Slack community. So head over to dailyaishowcommunity.com to sign up. Tomorrow we have Race to AI Literacy in Schools. And on Friday, we have our recaps, reframes, and rabbit hole free flow discussion. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Aloha.